Yes, as I always kick off these sessions, favorite time of the week, favorite time, being Brown at Work Live. And we have a new guest. I know those of you that are watching live, it's a face you haven't seen, but after this month's sessions, these first and third Tuesdays, you will not forget this young lady. So let me introduce you to Ashwini Balasubramanian. She is the general manager advanced engineering at Harley Davidson. Yes, I said Harley Davidson. In this role, she leads all aspects of advanced engineering, including test and reliability engineering, core engineering, and innovation teams. Ashwini is also responsible for delivering motorcycle leading innovation and technology roadmaps across the motorcycle portfolio. Now, you gotta love a woman that's responsible for motorcycles. Yes. Over her career, Ashwini has had extensive experience in leadership, leading global engineering and sales and marketing teams. She most recently served as a global director for market intelligence strategy at Martin Rea International. Prior to that, she served as an engineering manager for ZF North America and a vehicle development and technology team leader for Toyota. She also was an NVH engineer at Bosch. Ashwini holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from India and a Master's of Science of Mechanical Engineering from the University of Michigan. Go Blue! Another connection. Love my engineering women. And of course, Michigan grads. She also is Certified Sustainability Excellent Associate. Automotive News named her a rising star in 2019. She also holds a patent on headliners and vehicles with improved speech transmission characteristics. Okay, I'm going to read that again because I didn't give that justice. This woman holds a patent on headliners and vehicles with improved speech transmission characteristics. Phenomenal. Ashwini serves on the advisory board for the Center for Automotive Diversity, Inclusion, and Advancement, which is also CADIA, most of you know, and is the president of the Automotive Women's Alliance Foundation, AWAF. She is very passionate about DEI and is committed to supporting women reach their professional and personal goals. She was recently recognized by CADIA with the Power of One Award for her perseverance in the DE&I space. Ashwini, it's such an honor to have you being Brown at Work Live. Welcome.
Thank you, Linda. It feels really strange when someone reads about you in front of you. But thank you for that introduction. I really
I
appreciate you having me as well.
Oh, it is such an honor, such an honor. I mean, we've got so much connection. I see Bosch. I started my career at Bosch. We're mechanical engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer by degree. You went to Michigan. I went to Ross and AWAF.
That's right.
Yes,
And
AWAF
ZF too.
and ZF. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. How could I forget that? How could I forget that?
Yeah.
Well, Ashwini, is when you and I talked about, preparing for these lives this month, we both shared a passion around helping women understand that their voice is powerful. One, that they have one, and that it's powerful to recognize it and exercise it. And we're going to really expand a lot on that at our second session on May 16th. But if you don't mind, I would love if you kind of just would look back in your mind's eye a little bit, right? At the beginning of your career. Can you share a little bit about how it was for you as an only? We share that commonality as well in such a focused technical industry. And did you struggle with finding your voice early on?
Yeah, I did, Linda. It's more common than we like it to be, and it's more common
Mm,
than it should be.
yes.
When I went to college in India for my bachelor's, I was one of two women the entire 4 years of college for mechanical engineering, right? So even today, the amount of enrollment in mechanical engineering in India is only 5% female, right? So it
Wow.
is not a stream of engineering that women choose very frequently. It's very infrequent, right, for women to choose that. So I was never uncomfortable being amongst male colleagues, right? I became very comfortable. One, because I had to,
Sure.
and two, I always thought, I love this stuff, right? I love engineering.
Yeah, yes.
And my parents always told me, you decide what you want to be, you decide how far you want to go. Don't let anyone else decide what you can do and cannot do, right?
Mm,
So that always stuck with me all the time. The way they raised me, they never made me feel like I was a girl, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. Um,
wonderful.
they always let me dream big, right? There was no restrictions whatsoever. But despite all that, I think I always, initially at least, I struggled to find my voice, right? I
Mm,
was always somebody that was very much a conformist. So I tried to fit in, right? And I remember coming to the US, I still kind of had the same mindset, right? And I remember being at work, and, the guys that would work with me were really friendly. There was no problem with that.
uh-huh.
Uh,
Yes.
and there were times when I'd raise my hand and say, "Hey, guys, I'm here. You need to still watch what you're saying." you know. And
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
and the guys would say, "Ashwini, you're not a girl. You're a bro. You're one of us. We forget you're a girl." And I remember feeling so proud of myself. Like, I've arrived. I'm one of the bros.
Mm.
I fit in finally, right? But until I had my first child, I didn't realize how important it was to actually not try to fit in.
Ah.
You know,
Oh my God. Oh, okay. Can we pause right there?
yes, yes,
That is what you just said is so powerful. I think for women, right?
correct,
Because we feel like that is what we have to do.
correct,
And I'm so
correct.
glad you said that because I had somebody mention it to me not long ago. Linda, how can I show up in the room but still be a woman, still be female, still be me? So powerful
Yeah,
what you just said.
yeah.
Go ahead, finish.
So after I had my child and I came back, I realized I
Mm,
didn't actually fit in. Like, my challenges were so different than
different.
everybody else on
Yes.
the team. And it was not that people were vicious or malicious, right? I always like to believe people have positive intent. I like to start from that point, unless
Sure.
somebody gives me reason not to.
Right.
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 So, but what I realized is, because I never talked about what kind of challenges I had, I was so focused on fitting in and being one of the bros. I had done myself a disservice, and I had done my
Mm,
organization a disservice. But
wow.
I think motherhood basically forced me to come out of that shell. Right. It's that I got to talk about the challenges I have. It's very unique, it's very different. If I don't, they're never going to understand who I am. Right. And I
Yes.
remember being in meetings before I became a mom. Like, I'd have this idea in my head, right? I'd want to say it, and in my head, I'm like rehearsing this so many times. It's like, I'm going to say it, and then they're going to ask this question, and I'm going to respond this way. By the time I'm done rehearsing in my head, they'd have moved on to another topic, or another man would have said the same
Said the
thing, and
same
they'd say,
thing.
"Great idea," right? So I
Yeah.
realized that most of the issue actually lied within me, right? I was more
Mm,
intrinsic than extrinsic. I'm not saying there are no extrinsic issues, there are, but
sure.
I had to first overcome the intrinsic issues. They
Yes.
were twofold, right? One was the self doubt that I had, right? Constantly rehearsing in my head, thinking
Yep.
about if it's going to sound intelligent or sound dumb. So I had to overcome that, because people can't see self doubt. The only way they see it is it manifests in the form of a lack of
Yes.
confidence, right? Uh,
Yes.
so, and people don't know what to do with it, because they feel like, if you're not confident, you have to work on that. I can't help you.
Can't help you. Yes.
Right. So that
So true.
intrinsic block we have to overcome. And I remember talking to myself and saying, I have two engineering degrees. I can't be that dumb. Things that come out of my mouth shouldn't be and can't be that dumb. So I had to kind of coach myself,
Yes. Yeah.
talk to myself, and bring myself up to the fact that, okay, if it doesn't land well, that's fine, but I'm
Mm,
still going to say it.
hmm.
But I realized that once I started doing that, Linda, it actually was so well received, right? So that's why I said, not doing that, I was restricting myself from what I could
Yes.
offer to the organization. The second part is, once I had the first child, I'd have different kinds of challenges. Like, I had to leave on time to go pick up the kid from daycare.
Yep.
If she was sick, then I had to figure out with my working spouse, how do we manage this, right? Sickness doesn't just go off in a day,
That's
it lasts
right.
a whole week sometimes when they're
That's right.
germ magnets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of stuff, I felt like should I say it? Should I not say it? Or should I be a professional and just stick to the projects that I'm working on? And then I said, this is too stressful. I'm not able to function fully as an effective employee. And I'm frustrated because I'm not able to do that. When I go back home,
Mm,
I'm not able to function as a um, good mom either, right? I'm
yes.
frustrated. So it's like that piece of it, I had to figure out and say, okay, I'm going to let my personal and professional lines blur a little bit. I'm going to
Yes.
bring myself to work fully.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, Ashwin, look, so many jewels you just dropped right there. Totally. One of our watchers said, Kiana, thank you for joining us. She said, people can't see self doubt. Love that. Yes, I loved it too, Kiana, when she said it. It was everything. But oh my, okay, so Ashwini, I often say who we are personally is who we are professionally.
Correct.
I also say we have to get out of our own way. And
Yes.
you just, and all that wonderfulness you just shared, how you were in your own way, second guessing yourself, wanting to conform. I found it interesting that you said, should I be professional? I found
Correct.
that interesting, right?
Correct.
And you
Correct.
defined professionalism as if
Correct.
it had to be different.
Correct.
Can I,
Correct.
yeah. Oh my God. Okay, keep going. It's just so many jewels. I just had to stop there because that
No,
was
no, no,
just
that's
so
okay.
fabulous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think because of that, right? So at one point I said, I'm not effective in either of my roles.
Yes.
I'm not effective as a mom. I'm not effective as a professional working individual either. I'm going to let this blur. I'm going to let it go wherever it goes, right? So I started
Yes.
talking about, I have a hard stop. I need to leave because I have to go pick up my daughter today. Or I said, hey, I have a recital that I need to go to. I'm going to leave by 4. So if you have any meetings after 4, unfortunately, I won't be able to join, but I'll come back tomorrow and I'll catch up. What I realized, it did two things, right? So, one, it made me realize people actually didn't have a problem. They were willing to work around your schedule. It was all in your head sometimes. You know,
Mm.
people were okay with that. The second thing it did, I think it gave the men the power to talk about their personal lives too,
Wow.
right? Because
Oh, look at,
usually the
yes.
the caregiving problem, especially when it comes to kids, is not just a mom problem. It's a
It
parenting
is.
problem, right?
Yes.
So I feel like me bringing those things to work allowed my male colleagues to also talk about it, right? They said, yeah,
Yes.
I gotta go too, I don't want to. So it took that taboo out of saying, if I have to leave at certain time, I'm not being a professional, right? I'm not living up to the standards that I'm expected to be behaving in a certain manner. But it's like, if you can't fulfill the most important duty of your life, which is being a parent, you've chosen to be one. If you
Exactly.
can't make time and fulfill that duty well, how are you going to be a full-fledged, committed working employee,
Yeah.
right? So
So
I
true.
had to come to that realization, and I feel like it was a journey, right? It didn't happen overnight. I had to
Right.
practice it. It had to become more normal for me because it felt very unnatural for me to do that initially, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then, oh,
And if I could ask Ashwini, because clearly what we tell ourselves, it's amazing the story or the storylines we tell ourselves, right? That 9 times out of 10 has nothing to do with the true situation
yes,
or this, what's going on.
yeah,
But what you shared with me in the beginning, which I've loved, is that your parents, really instilled in you this belief that you could do and be anything, right?
correct.
And as an East Indian woman and being in a male dominated environment and you're two women in your entire class of engineering, and yet you come into this space recognizing that there is really no difference. You said you struggled with getting there. What do you think was the root of your struggle? Because some of us coming from an environment where we kind of really second guess, or we have whatever's going on in our childhood that drives some of that self
Yeah,
doubt,
yeah,
some of
yeah.
that low confidence. So was the root of your second guessing, your one thinking, okay, wait a minute, this can't be professional for me? Where did that
Correct.
come from?
So
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with the societal construct you grow up in, right?
Mm,
So India has a very hierarchical, very
yes.
conformist type of culture. Like if you have somebody that's, older than you, or if you have somebody that's in a hierarchical position, that's where you're reporting to someone, you never contradict what they're saying. It's considered
Mm,
disrespectful. And as a woman, you're expected to be this epitome of grace, of patience, and all these things that sometimes is humanly impossible to keep up
yes.
and live up to, right? So it felt like these were all the different stereotypes I had built in my head, right? Not because of anything else other than just observing the world around me, right? The way the world treated women, the way
Yes.
that, this is your place and this is how we expect you to behave. I remember having conversations with my girlfriends after I had my first child. I decided to go part time for 6 months just to, figure out, am I,
Right.
what do I want to stay in the workplace? Do I want to be a full time mom? What is it I want to do? Right. Let me try to
Right.
figure this out without stepping away from the workplace and losing my spot.
Right.
So I went part time, and I remember some of my friends back home would say, do you think you can really take care of your child, going to work? I don't
Mm,
remember anybody asking my husband that question ever. You know,
mm, wow.
so
Yes.
I felt like, why is parenting a single duty? It's a double duty. Two people's partnership is what's
Yes.
in the game, right? So,
Yes.
but when I went part time, I love my kids to death, Linda, but I figured out I am not a stay at home mom type.
Yes. Right. Right.
Just for
Neither
my
was I.
sanity,
Neither
yeah,
was
for
I.
my
Yeah.
sanity, for my
Yeah.
husband's sanity, and for my kids' sanity,
Yeah.
I had to have that workplace where I could kind of use my own creativity and my
Mm,
own,
mm-hmm.
brain trust to do what I wanted to do. And then
Yes.
I felt like I was such a more effective mom and wife and whatever other roles I had to play. If I
Yeah.
took that workplace joy away from me, I was just like a deflated balloon, right? I
Got
had
you.
no energy.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think I had to figure that out also. But while I was figuring that out, you can tell it's almost like once you have the child, people think, oh, can you still work on the projects you were working on? And I'm like, maternity is not a process where you lose brain trust.
Right.
Your brain's still intact. Yes, my body has changed, but my
Right.
brain is
My
still very
brain.
intact, right?
Exactly.
So
Right.
it's like that. That's
Right.
why whenever I have team members, I always tell and coach people on my team that are people leaders, and I say, we have to flip the script. We should
Yes.
not ask the women, are you going to come back part time? Do you want to work full time? We're going to ask the question of how can we make this process
There
seamless
we
when you
go.
come back, right?
Exactly.
So that it
Absolutely.
doesn't feel cumbersome when you come back to work after you've taken your maternity break. I
Absolutely.
think we need to flip that script.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So, Ashwini, being, a woman of color coming into the environment that you've been in, such a heavily dominated male field, you said, hey, I was always comfortable around guys, wanted to be one of the bros, realized I didn't have to be and still
Yeah.
could be,
Yes.
as dominant and present, and being a full woman. As you went through some of your roles and experiences, were there ever any time that you kind of ran into a wall that people were like, yeah, you think you're present, but you're really not? Did you experience
Are you
anything like
talking
that?
from more of being present in the moment or
No, just being a woman of color in a
uh,
workplace in a male dominated environment, such that you might have been in the space or had an experience where, hey, I'm here, I'm providing value, I know that I bring value, yet it wasn't quite welcomed. Although you were pretty comfortable, you had worked through the societal
yeah. Yeah,
norms and
yeah.
all those other things. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think, like I said before, we have the intrinsic
Yep.
roadblocks and then we
Yep.
have the extrinsic ones,
Extra.
right?
Yep. Hmm.
So when we think about the extrinsic ones, I remember I was in a situation where I was having a career development discussion with um, a potential mentor, right? And we're talking about, what are your career aspirations? What so I always like to think of my career from a skill set standpoint, right? What
Ah,
sort of
okay.
skill sets do I need to gather? It's more not more from a role or a title. It's more about skill set, so
Yeah.
that basically continues to have help you evolve and have a
Yes.
broader range
Broad
of
depth and
impact and
breadth.
influence,
Yes.
right? Uh,
Yes.
that
Yes.
you become that asset, that you become the obvious choice when a impact
Yes.
opens
Love
up.
it. Love it.
So
Yes.
I was having this discussion, right? And the mentor, I think it did come from, like I said, I want to believe there's positive intent there. So
Sure.
it did. So it probably came from a place of positive intent. So the guy looks at me and says, you have a family, you have little kids, right? For you to be able to get to that sort of skill set, you probably have to have P&L experience, which means maybe some manufacturing ops experience is required. I don't know if you can pull that off, right?
Wow.
So, I was very disappointed, right? They said maybe you should try something more that's, maybe IT based or something that allows you
Mm-hmm.
to have more of a
Flexibility.
flexible and, desk
Yeah.
job that gives you the room. So, like, I think they were trying to help me out, but I was
Mm-hmm.
actually very disappointed
Right. Right.
because I said, one, we're not talking about what are the skill sets you need to be in your next role. And instead of saying these are the gaps and how are we going to put a plan to
Bridge
work
them.
towards it,
Yep.
felt like someone else was deciding what I can or
And
cannot do.
cannot do.
So
Yes.
remember, my parents always said, "Don't let anybody decide." So the
Mm-hmm.
way I walked away from that discussion was, I said, "Well, one, I'm not going to go to that person again for
Person
a
again.
mentoring discussion.
Clearly.
That's not the kind of
Clearly.
mentor I want
That's
to
not
have."
not the
Right.
mentor. Right.
Second is, I said, this gives me even more drive to not just
Mm.
look out and be an advocate for myself, but also help other women. Because if I am experiencing this right now, it cannot be just a me problem.
Yes.
I
Yes.
am
Yes.
sure other women are getting feedback
Yes.
like this. And I remember, just coming back from the meeting, I remember talking with my husband and I said, maybe he's right. And he's like, don't you let those people get into your head.
Right.
He was the one who like snapped me out of it. Right. So,
Yes, yes. Thank goodness for those spouses, those partners that do that.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So,
yes.
but what I'm trying to say is, I think sometimes you need those sorts of voices of reason. And actually, some of those male allies can be powerful voice of reason, whether it's your spouse or your friend or your
Yes,
colleague at work. You
yes.
also need to know when to walk away from
Hmm.
mentors that are trying to be mentors in a cloak of, you know, um, trying to help you, but not actually trying to help you.
Trying to help you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question, but it basically
No,
to
definitely you
say,
did. Hmm.
it's like, you have to realize where extrinsic roadblocks are being put in place and how
Exactly.
to either you have to break them down, take them head on, or you have to find another path that works for you.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the key, right? Identifying them and then which direction do you find another path or do you take them head on and conquer them? And
Right.
it depends on the situation, right? It depends on whatever extrinsically is causing you challenge. So, no, I love that example. And I think it's a perfect example because, we as women in the workplace, mentorship is important, right? But
Correct. Yeah.
identifying the correct mentors, people that have your best interest at heart, and maybe, I mean, to your point, right? Glass half full, thinking positively. Maybe
Correct.
he or she considered himself giving you advice that would be at your best interest. But here's what they missed: they didn't know Ashwini. Because
Correct.
he would, you know what I mean?
Correct.
He would have never made that statement had he
Correct.
really gotten to know you. So I think it's so important when we're trying to set up mentorship relationships and have those people that will guide and give us some advice and different things, to really pay attention, because someone may have, like you almost did to your husband, kind of interfere. Someone may have taken that and said, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, he's
Yeah. Yeah.
right. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. And I
what am
think,
I doing?
yeah,
Go
and I
ahead.
think mentors can make or break situations
They
too, right?
can.
Like I've
Yes.
had mentors that have challenged me, right? They said, "Why
Mm.
aren't you saying your ambition out loud? What's holding you back?"
Wow.
Right? Because I used to have this tendency of saying, "I'm not going to share my ambition out loud because I people might think I'm too aggressive, or
Oh
or
my gosh, Ashwini, why don't you share I'm telling you, there's so many jewels here. Share your ambition out loud. Oh my God, I love that.
and that
I
was one of
love
the
that.
best advice I've heard from a mentor, right? They said, if you
Wow.
don't say it out loud, just like self doubt, people cannot see it.
Can't see
People
it.
are not mind readers, right? They don't
Wow.
know what you want.
Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes you will hear people saying, I don't think you can do that. It's up to you to do decide what you do with that feedback, right? You either
Mm,
take it or you leave it, right? So
yes.
he said, but the first step towards your career development is to say what you want, is to advocate for yourself and actually claiming your spot around the ambition, right? You have to be
Yes.
able to do that. So, like I said, that changed my entire, you know, discussion tone with my bosses around
I
career development,
bet.
right?
Yeah, it would. And I love, because exactly what you said is so true. We tend to not do that because we don't want to be thought of as aggressive. We don't
Correct.
want to be thought of as, loud and, whatever terminology, category, negative box they want to put that in, when we're
Correct.
really just speaking our desires. We really are just knowing what we want and making it know.
Correct.
What I love you said earlier, we're making ourselves become the obvious choice, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
yes, which I'd love that from earlier. We as women just naturally don't do that. Some of us not enough, some of us not at all. So I love the fact that you found that somebody spoke that to you, poured that into you, and motivated you. That had I ever gotten that advice early on, that would have been the best for me too.
Yeah. And, she also told me, like, you will hear people say, put your head down, crush your role, and it will
Mm.
happen. And she said, more times
Oh
than
my
not,
gosh.
that's not the case for women.
It's not.
You
It's
you put your
not.
head down and you crush your role, you get more work of the
More work. Yes.
more of the same.
Oh my God. I share that a lot with my clients, and I've mentioned in another live because I used to be that person in my
Yes.
career. I was head down, man. I was killing the roles, head down, working hard. I just get more of the same.
Yes.
Just couldn't figure
Yes.
out
Yeah.
why it wasn't making the difference, why it wasn't going. Oh my God. So that's just it's so true.
But
It's so
those
true.
those were, I think, pieces of advice that really
Yes.
changed the way I approached my overall career, right? It gave me the
Mm.
confidence that first it was another woman telling me this. And I said, if she can do this, right? She's telling me
Yes.
there will not be negative consequences. I should build the courage to do that. So it's still a growing process. I'm not
Oh,
perfect by
absolutely.
any means, right?
Sure,
But
sure.
I feel like I've come a long way from where I was.
Oh my gosh, Ashwini, no, none of us have arrived, but clearly, giving your career path, you have definitely come a long way, which is why, and I mean, see, 30 minutes, I tell you, when I have fabulous guests like you, it's just amazing. The 30 minutes is like poof, it's like I just
Yes.
remember clicking the live button, and now it's already gone. But this is why I'm so glad this is a two-part story session, because when you come back on May 16th, you're going to talk about ways that women like yourself, right, when you struggle, how they can find the voice. What can they do to build that
Yeah.
confidence, to let
Yeah.
that self-doubt no longer exist, so
Yes.
that it doesn't matter that it's seen or not, because it doesn't exist. So if you're watching this live, thank you, Kiana, and several of you who've joined me live. This has been, I know for you, is like it always is for me, a phenomenal session with Ashwini. You want to come back on May 16th for part two. If you're catching this on the replay, if you're out there on LinkedIn, which a lot of you are, and you just kind of listen, and I understand, not a problem, but you want to reach out to Ashwini, please do send her a DM, a message. I know she would love to maybe have a one-on-one exchange with you over a
Yes.
couple messages and help you through you finding your voice. But like I said, highly recommend come back on May 16th, because this young woman is going to drop some more jewels, some more gems like she did in this one. Ashwini, it was such a pleasure. I'm so excited. I'm glad we're going to be seeing each other again in a couple of weeks.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Linda. I think when we do this sort of conversations, it makes me stop and kind of pause and reflect too, right? Sometimes we forget what we've learned. So
Mm,
it's important to kind of reflect and remind yourself, to bring some of that muscle memory back of what you've learned
yes.
in the past.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All
So
right,
thank you so
everyone.
much.
Oh, it's an honor, pleasure, and honor. All right, everyone. Until next time.